Imagine you're running a rehearsal at your church. You got your music ready and your team is locked in and everything is flowing. And then the pastor walks in, grabs the mic, and starts redirecting your musicians, your team, your rehearsal that you planned and that you're being paid to do. And then, and this is the part that's going to make your stomach turn, he looks around the room and introduces himself as the minister of music. This isn't a made-up story. I got a comment on my last video from a musician who lived this exact moment. And once I read it, I realized that this is way more common than most people want to admit. And this issue isn't about one bad pastor necessarily. It's an issue that's happening in many of our churches. And the preachers and the pastors who overstep like this aren't necessarily malicious. A lot of them are just dealing with insecurities, and a lot of them have a power trip that just hasn't been checked. But intent doesn't cancel impact. When the person that's in charge of the building or the church thinks that they're also in charge of the music ministry, the musicians lose every time, no matter how talented they are. I played for a church one time where the pastor used to come in and sit in on the rehearsals regularly. And most times he would just sit there quietly. But other times he would interrupt me in the middle of teaching the sopranos a part and give some off the wall feedback like, hey, y'all should sing that down an octave. But not only did his presence of being there make me and the other team members uncomfortable most times, he was basically trying to do my job. Just imagine a musician with a degree in music and over 15 years of experience in music at the time having to stop and defer to somebody that can't even tell you what a major scale is. Now, there are three main ways that this overstepping and overreaching of leadership shows up. And this is going to help you identify whether or not the leadership of the pastor where you're playing is overstepping their boundaries. And the third one is by far the most common. And the first way that it shows up is what I call the rehearsal takeover. And it's kind of what I was just alluding to, but it actually happens more quietly and more subtle than most people realize. So you're in a rehearsal and you're going over songs and everything is going cool. And the pastor or the leader just kind of walks in quietly and kind of just meanders around a little bit with this attitude of like, oh yeah, I'm here, but don't mind me. I'm just here, just walking around. No big deal. But we musicians pick up on stuff, right? So stuff will happen like you'll see him make a face or turn around subtly and look like and have this look on his face if someone hits a wrong note. And another thing you'll see when this is happening subtly like this is you'll see that church leader or that pastor just kind of get up and walk in and out of the rehearsal, kind of like just to kind of make it seem like he's not really there to pay attention to you guys, but he just goes out and then comes back in, right? And just sits and listens. And another thing he'll do is start making these what I call soft suggestions. So it'll be something like he'll say in a really nice manner, hey, why don't y'all slow that down a little bit? Or he'll say something like, I really love when y'all sing that, that song, that other song, whatever, right? In a really nice way. And you know that he's really suggesting that he wants y'all to do that song instead of the song that you're rehearsing on and that you spend time, preparing that rehearsal for. And the big problem with the way that this shows up is that it communicates a message to the entire team that the director, the minister of music, his authority is conditional. It's basically what the pastor or that leadership says. Now, the second way that this overreach tends to show up is much more diabolical, and it's what I call the straight up title grab. So as I mentioned, a lot of these pastors and preachers and stuff will just straight up declare themselves as the director or the minister of music with no kind of music training at all and couldn't even find the note C on a piano to save their life. But the way that this one mostly shows up is them trying to use quote unquote spiritual authority to cover up their musical ignorance. So they'll say stuff like, God put me in charge of this church. And as the leader of this church, everything should and is supposed to go through me. So I'm the minister of music. I direct this choir. I'm over this. And I'm just like, well, bro, you should have prayed for some musical experience and music skills then. And what did you even hire musicians for if that's what your role is? And more importantly, what are you saying that everyone else around you's role is? Is it just to serve you? And this one is particularly damaging because it always leads to a complete crash and burn of the entire music department, the entire music ministry. It's like getting on a plane and going up in the cockpit and telling the pilots of that plane how to do their job when you don't know the first thing about planes or about flying. Straight crash and burn, right? So a pastor can be incompetent. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Now, the third way that this overreach shows up is a way that I guarantee you have either dealt with before yourself or you've seen it happen multiple times. And it's what I call the invisible evaluation. So you ever heard that song, It Always Feels Like Somebody's Watching Me? That song? That's exactly what I'm talking about here. What happens here is that the pastor or the leadership is always watching, or they have people reporting back to them things that you're doing and things that's going on in the rehearsals and all of that. But none of it is really ever directly communicated to you. So you never really know if you're messing up or if something is going wrong or if he wants something else from you or even if you're doing a really good job. And the ways that this shows up are in things like he'll come up to you after church and shake your hand, but the interaction that you have between the two of you is just a little sus. It's a little off. And it's just enough to keep you wondering and keep you guessing whether or not he's pleased or if he's okay with everything is going on or if you're doing anything wrong. And the way that you'll eventually find out is in a meeting months later or in a text message thread that he sends you that has some cryptic message like, hey guys, I just want to make sure that we're on point for the Easter service this year because I don't want to happen this year what happened last time. And it's like, wait, what? What happened last time? We didn't even talk about anything. But this is by far one of the biggest reasons that a lot of skilled and talented musicians are just straight up leaving the church, like I talked about in my last video. A church musician left a comment on that video that said, yeah, the pastor just saw me as a rival. And that's just crazy. So why does this pastor leadership overreach thing keep happening in a lot of our churches? Well, number one, it's because most of these churches don't have any sort of organizational charts or any sort of organizational job descriptions for their musicians. And guess what? A lot of them like it that way. Why? Because that means with no job description that they can basically come to you at any time and make up what they want you to do. So yeah, you end up becoming the sound tech, the camera guy. They want you to start this youth choir that they didn't have when you signed up for the job, but they want to put all of these things on your plate. And they do that because there's no job description. And another reason is, and this is something that you hear me talk about all the time, but you didn't have a contract when you took the job. And trust me, I get it. A lot of us are just hired on vibes and relationships. And I've taken church jobs without a contract too, so I'm guilty of it as well. But without that contract, they can basically expand you into any role or any position that they want you to be in. Man, I know a musician who was actually had a church that had him working in the daycare as a part of his job as the minister of music with no extra pay, by the way. See, without the structure in place that a contract or an agreement gives, the most dominant person in the room is always going to win. And I can almost guarantee you that every time that's going to be the pastor. So you have to get what I call clarity on paper before you have conflict in person. You don't have a pastor or a leadership problem. You have a boundaries problem. And boundaries almost always don't exist unless they are in writing. So if you've dealt with or are dealing with any of the stuff that we talked about in this video, know that this dysfunction is not something that we church musicians have to put up with and have to just take. It's just a sign that you're operating without the structure and without the boundaries that protect you from things like that. So in the description of this video, you will find my church musician contract and payment kit. And it's a contract that sets these boundaries for you and puts you in this lane and protects you before anyone can cross it. So you want to go click that link and download that now. And then you want to go watch this video where I show you exactly how to price yourself as a musician so that you get paid your value and your worth. See you in the next video.